100 roaring Harleys rolled into our quiet little neighborhood one Saturday morning. Not for trouble, but for something far bigger. What happened that day changed everything I ever thought I knew about bikers. It all started with a mother named Sarah Reynolds, who was watching her 12-year-old son, Kevin, slip away from her piece by piece. Ever since his dad died of a heart attack at just 41, Kevin hadn't been the same. The kid who used to ramble on for hours about dinosaurs and rockets had gone silent, almost invisible around the house. At first, Sarah thought it was just grief, but then the nightmares started. Kevin would wake up screaming in the middle of the night, drenched in sweat, terrified of something he wouldn't talk about. Soon after, he refused to go to swim practice, the one thing he used to love more than anything. Dark circles began forming under his eyes. One night, Sarah found him hiding in his closet at 3 a.m, shaking. "Kevin, please," she begged. "Tell me what's wrong." He whispered back, "It's nothing, Mom." But mothers always know when something's wrong, really wrong. When Sarah finally found the truth, her blood ran cold. On Kevin's phone were threatening messages from his former swim coach, the same man who had been quietly fired from the school a few months earlier, the same man who still lived just 10 minutes away in a small blue house on Maple Street. He'd been showing up everywhere Kevin went, parking near the park, standing by the pool fence, smiling that same sick smile. Kevin was terrified. Sarah went straight to the police, but they told her there wasn't enough evidence. "We can't do anything until he actually does something," they said. That's when Sarah realized the truth. The system that was supposed to protect her child had completely failed him. At 2 a.m, desperate and out of options, she sat at her kitchen table and typed a Facebook post that would change everything. "I need help for my son. The system has failed him. I don't know where else to turn." She hit send, never imagining who would read it. The next morning started like any other. The sun was out, coffee was brewing, and then came the sound. A low rumble, then another. At exactly 9:17, the first motorcycle turned onto their street. The sound shook the windows, and Sarah jumped, spilling her coffee across the counter. One bike became 2, 2 became 10. Within minutes, the quiet cul-de-sac was filled with gleaming Harleys. Kevin ran into the kitchen, eyes wide. "Mom, what's happening?" Sarah didn't have an answer. Outside, men and women in black leather vests stood shoulder to shoulder on her front lawn, like an army gathering for battle. Most wore the unmistakable red and white patches she'd only ever seen on the news. Hell's Angels. A massive man with a silver beard swung his leg off a black Harley and started walking toward the porch. His vest was heavy with patches, the kind that told you this guy wasn't just another biker. He was someone people listened to. Engines kept growling behind him as more bikes rolled in, the sound echoing off every house on the block. The doorbell rang. Sarah's hand trembled as she reached for the handle, keeping Kevin close to her side. The bearded giant spoke first, his voice deep but surprisingly kind. "Mrs. Reynolds, my name's Diesel. I'm the president of the North Valley chapter." Sarah blinked. How do you know who I am?" "Your Facebook post about your boy spread fast," he said gently. "Word travels among people who care about kids, and we pay close attention when a child's in trouble." Behind him, at least 50 bikers stood shoulder to shoulder, engines still idling as more arrived. The whole neighborhood vibrated with the sound. Sarah's voice quivered. "What exactly is happening here?" Diesel stayed calm, almost fatherly. "We're here to help your son, ma'am. Everything we do today is completely legal. Just a show of support for a kid who deserves to feel safe again. He reached into his vest pocket and handed her a card. David Kowalski, construction foreman. It was a name Sarah recognized from a local building company. Then Diesel said something that froze her blood. "The man who's been bothering your boy. He lives in that blue house on Maple Street, doesn't he? The former swim coach." Sarah's breath caught. "How could you possibly know that?" Diesel's expression didn't change. "Our community's got eyes and ears everywhere," he said quietly. "People talk to us, and when it comes to kids being hurt, we listen real close." He knelt down, meeting Kevin eye to eye. "Hey there, champ," he said softly. "You don't have to be scared anymore. Nobody's gonna hurt you. Not today, not ever. Not while we're around." Kevin looked up at him, still wide-eyed but no longer hiding behind his mom. For the first time in weeks, the boy stood tall. Just then, a police cruiser rolled slowly past the line of motorcycles. The officer inside nodded toward Diesel, and Diesel nodded back. Sarah stared, confused. "Wait, you know the police?" Diesel smiled faintly. "That's Officer Chen. His little girl was in your son's swim class last year." Sarah felt the truth hit her like a gut punch. There were more victims, more scared parents, but still not enough proof for anyone to act. Diesel stood and looked back toward his crew. "We're planning a little ride through town," he said. "We'll pass by the school, the pool, and a few other places that need reminding where the line is." Diesel didn't have to say the words, "Blue House on Maple Street." Everyone there already knew what that meant. Sarah's voice was trembling when she finally asked the question burning inside her. "Why would you do all this for us? You don't even know us." Diesel's weathered face softened, and for a moment the tough exterior cracked. "Some of us," he said quietly, "know exactly what it feels like to be a scared kid with nobody standing up for you." Those words hung in the air, heavy with memories and pain that didn't need explaining. A woman in a leather vest walked up, carrying a small box. She handed it to Kevin. Inside was a tiny black vest, child-sized, with one patch sewn on the back. It said "Protected." "Honorary membership," Diesel told him with a smile. "This means you've got friends now, kid. Lots of them." The woman crouched beside him, her voice warm and gentle. "We brought a bike with a sidecar. If your mom says it's okay, you can ride with us." For the first time in months, Sarah saw something new in Kevin's eyes. Not fear, but excitement. Hope. And then it happened. The most unforgettable procession their town had ever seen. Over 100 motorcycles lined up, engines rumbling like thunder rolling through the streets. Police cars cleared the way ahead of them, lights flashing. Kevin sat proudly in the sidecar next to Diesel, wearing his new vest and a helmet almost too big for his head. Sarah stood on the sidewalk, tears streaming down her face, watching her son finally smile again. They rode past the middle school. Teachers came out and waved, some even clapping. Past the community pool, parents raised their fists in support. Past the courthouse, where a judge stood on the steps, nodding slowly in approval. And yes, they passed that blue house on Maple Street. No one said a word, but the message was loud and clear. This boy is protected. The ride ended at a nearby park, where someone had already set up a massive cookout. Smoke from the grills filled the air, mixing with laughter and the sound of kids playing. At first, parents from Kevin's school looked nervous, seeing so many leather-clad bikers in one place. But soon they realized these weren't outlaws today. They were protectors. Kevin sat at a picnic table surrounded by friends, smiling wider than Sarah had seen since before his father died. Diesel found her standing off to the side, quietly watching. "Thank you," she said softly. "I still don't understand why you're doing all this." Diesel looked out at the children running and laughing, his voice low. "My little sister was 15, he said. Her swim coach started giving her extra lessons after practice. Told her she had special potential if she stayed late." Diesel's jaw tightened, his big hands curling into fists. "She told our parents," he said quietly. "They went to the school. The school promised to look into it, but nothing ever happened. My sister quit swimming, had nightmares for years." He looked over at Kevin, laughing with other kids by the picnic tables. "That was 30 years ago," he went on. "She's grown now, got a family of her own, but she still struggles to trust people. Some things you can't fix looking backward, so you fix them moving forward instead." He turned back to Sarah. "Your husband served in the army, didn't he?" Sarah blinked, surprised. "2 tours in Afghanistan. But how did you know that?" Diesel nodded toward several of his brothers standing nearby. "Half our chapter's made up of vets, ma'am. Marines, Army, Navy, you name it." He pointed to the military patches sewn beside their Hell's Angels colors. "If your husband were here, he'd be the one protecting his boy. We're just standing in for him." By Monday morning, things started to change. Detective Salazar reopened the case and looked at everything with fresh eyes, especially after 20 bikers showed up and quietly filled the police station's waiting room. One by one, 3 more families came forward with their own stories about the same coach. That afternoon, officers searched the Blue House on Maple Street. They found what they needed. The man was arrested, and let's just say 20 motorcycles were parked across the street to make sure he saw exactly who was watching. 3 weeks later, Kevin returned to the pool, this time with a new coach, an Olympic medalist who made every parent feel safe again. 6 of Kevin's old teammates came back too. The nightmares didn't disappear right away. Healing never works that fast, but they faded, little by little. Every Saturday morning, a few Harleys would cruise slowly past the Reynolds home, engines rumbling softly, just checking in. One night, Kevin asked his mom, "Do you think Dad would have liked Diesel and his friends?" Sarah smiled, thinking about it. "Your father believed in protecting people who couldn't protect themselves," she said. "So yes, I think he would have respected them a lot." 6 months later, the former coach stood in court and took a plea deal. He'd never work with children again. Outside the courthouse, those same bikers waited, rows of leather and chrome, silent but steady. They'd promised to see this through, and they had. Kevin ran straight to Diesel, wrapping his arms around him. The big man knelt down, his face softening in a way that would have shocked anyone who only saw the patches on his vest. That evening, Sarah finally understood something powerful. The people who look the toughest often have the gentlest hearts. When her son needed saving, the heroes who showed up didn't wear badges or capes. They wore leather and rode Harleys. Sometimes, help comes from the places you'd never expect. And sometimes, 100 Hell's Angels are exactly what it takes to make a scared little boy smile again.